Hello and welcome to Home with Sarah Jane. In today's video, I wanted to share the book series that my kids are currently loving. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Sarah and I'm a homeschooling mom to two girls, ages 11 and 14. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for stopping by once again. I do really appreciate you. So, if you've been on my channel before, it's no surprise that we love books, we love reading here, and our homeschool is filled with just constant reading. But it could be really, really challenging to fit in everything that we want to read. So my kids absolutely love reading through certain book series, and sometimes we don't have time to fit those into our homeschool day. So these are the books that they are choosing to read on their own. These are not books that are assigned to them. I think there's only 3 book series here in this stack that I have to share with you that are things that we're actually reading during our homeschool day. Everything else is stuff that they're choosing to read on their own independently when they're done with all of their schoolwork. You know, kind of like, I don't want to call it their fun read because I think all reading is fun, but it's like their choices, not something assigned to them. Now, let's kind of start off with the ones that I am using in my homeschool, and that is the Wild Robot series. My kids are absolutely loving, that's the first one. My kids are absolutely loving the Wild Robot series. Currently, there are 2 books in this series, but they are releasing a 3rd one at the end of September. So obviously that's on our reading list for this year, and my kids are really looking forward to it. But because that book is about to be released, my kids have been asking nonstop if we can reread through some of these, if we could reread through these books, or you know, if they can read them on their own and things like that. So my kids really enjoyed these. I think they're really sweet books. I thought at first that the first one started off just a tad bit slow for me, but as we continued to read it, these are some of our favorite books that we've read, so we absolutely love these. The first one is called The Wild Robot. The second one is The Wild Robot Escapes. And then the third one that will be released later this month is The Wild Robot Protects. Now, if you're not familiar with the Wild Robot series, it is about a robot named Roz that she basically finds herself stranded on an island and she has to learn to live there. And it kind of goes through just her story and the story of some of the animals and situations that happen on that island. So it is a really sweet story. We did really enjoy both of these books, and we are really looking forward to the 3rd book. Now, the next series I wanted to share with you that my kids are currently loving is actually The Book Wanderers. It's Pages & Co., The Book Wanderers. Now, this one, my oldest daughter read this book and she absolutely loved it. My oldest daughter is in the 9th grade. We don't really pay attention to grade levels when it comes to reading, especially when it comes to like their choices for their books that don't have anything to do with school. They can choose to read whatever they want. Well, almost, you know. let me put that almost in there. But she was reading Pages & Co. The Book Wanderers, and she absolutely loved this story. That she came to me and she said, "Mom, I think that we should," or she said, "I think that I should stop reading this series and we should do this as a family read aloud." She goes, "I love this book," and she goes, "I'm really looking forward to reading the next one," but she thinks that both myself and her younger sister would really enjoy this series as well. So she wants to do this as a family read aloud. So that's what we're going to do. Towards the end of the year, the homeschool year, I think, is we're going to try and add this in. Or if we run out of, you know, family read alouds, we will pick this up and go through it. But she absolutely loved this story. And there are 6 books in the series. We only have the first 2, but I will pick up the others, you know, because she's loving them so much. But this series is about a little girl named Tilly. It says, ever since her mother's disappearance, 11-year-old Tilly Pages has found comfort in the stories at Pages & Co., her grandparents' bookshop. But when her favorite characters, Anne of Green Gables and Alice in Wonderland, or Alice from Alice in Wonderland, start showing up at the shop, Tilly's adventures become very real. Not only can she follow Anne and Alice into their books, she discovers she can book wander into other stories that she chooses. Now, my oldest daughter did say that these books do talk a lot about like a lot of the more classic stories, which is another reason why I wanted to wait to read this book for later in the school year with my as like a whole family, because we are reading a lot of the classics this year with my youngest daughter, and I feel like this story might make a little bit more sense once we get through those stories, because she was saying that it talks about like it was saying Alice in Wonderland, and I think it was some of the books were talking about like a little princess, and so there's characters from all different classic stories kind of interwoven into this series, and I do think that we will all love this book as much as my oldest did. So I wanted to share this one, Pages & Co. The Book Wanderers. And then the second book is called Pages & Co. The Lost Fairy Tales. We haven't read this one. I think my daughter started it, but then she stopped it because she wanted to do it as a family read aloud. But yeah, there are 6 books in this series, and I am really looking forward to these ones because my oldest daughter really talked these up. So I'm really looking forward to reading these as a family. Now, I'm going to kind of move into what my youngest daughter, my 6th grader, has been reading. And remember, we don't really stick to grade level reading here. I kind of let them read whatever they enjoy, even if it's at a lower level. So my youngest daughter has really been enjoying the Mayor Good Boy series. Now, there is only 2 books currently in this series, but they are releasing more. And these are more like comics. So if you have a struggling reader, or if you have a reader that just really enjoys comics, this might be a very, very nice series for them. I actually got my struggling reader to enjoy reading a lot more by reading comics, because we found that she was getting more frustrated with the amount of words on a page, and it wasn't necessarily that she couldn't read them, it was just overwhelming. So switching over to graphic novels and comics for her has been a really, really great experience for us, and it's actually slowly getting her into wanting to read thicker books and, you know, regular chapter books and things like that. So this is really building confidence for her by, you know, sticking with comics and graphic novels for a little while. But with Mayor Good Boy, which one's book 1? Okay, book 1 is Mayor Good Boy, and book 2 is Mayor Good Boy Goes to Hollywood. If you haven't guessed, it is about a dog named Mayor Good Boy, and Mayor Good Boy is ready to make change. With foes around every corner trying to ruin his campaign of fun, will he still enjoy a future full of belly rubs? Silly stories. It's just a silly story about this dog that is Mayor, and she is absolutely loving these. Now, the next series is something that I'm sure majority of people are familiar with, and that is the Little House series. Now, the Little House series is something that both of my girls absolutely loved. Now, my oldest daughter did read these books probably about 4 or 5 years ago, but my youngest daughter just finished wrapping these up at the end of last school year, and she absolutely loved them. If you're not familiar with the Little House series, there are 9 books. Some people are just familiar with the first, you know, few books, like what is it called? Little House in the Big Woods or Little House on the Prairie. Some people don't realize there's actually 9 books total in the series. I actually didn't know that until I started homeschooling. So there's that. But yeah, again, my kids are completely different from each other. They like, their interests and their likes and things like that are very much different from each other, but they both really enjoyed this story. And that could be sometimes hard to find in our house, is books that both of my kids will enjoy. Now, in this series, you have Little House in the Big Woods, Farmer Boy, Little House on the Prairie, On the Banks of Plum Creek. I really like this one. By the Shores of Silver Lake, The Long Winter, Little Town on the Prairie, These Happy Golden Years, and The First 4 Years. So I do have the ones that have pictures in it. There's only a few pictures, and they are colored pictures. I do have the colored edition. My kids really enjoyed that. Now, when my oldest daughter read these, she read these on her own. When my youngest daughter read them, she read them alongside an audiobook. So she would listen to the audiobook and follow along in the book, and that just made it easier for her. Again, too many words can be stressful, so using Audible or audiobooks along with the readers really helps her. So, but again, we all really enjoyed this series. I read it a long time ago as well when my first daughter was reading it, but these are really, really great stories. Now, the next series that my youngest daughter is absolutely loving is another silly series called I can't say the words, CatStronauts, I think is how you say it. There are 6 books in this series, I believe. Yeah, 6 books in this series. Silly comic books or graphic novel style books. She absolutely loves these. She thinks they're funny. Now, she can read these in like one day. That's fine with me. Like, it's totally fine. But she loves these, and she has picked these up quite a few times. So she read through the entire series over like, I don't know, 2 weeks, and then she like started back at the beginning and started reading them again because she just absolutely loved them. So she really likes these silly stories. And these ones, this is book 1, Mission Moon, and this says, desperate for a solution to worldwide blackouts, the world's best scientist calls in the only cats brave enough for a last-second trip back to the moon to set up a hyper-advanced power plant. The CatStronauts are needed. Meet the fearless commander, Major Meowser. Sorry, that's just silly. Brave but hungry pilot Waffles, genius inventor Blanket, and quick-thinking science officer Pom Pom as they train for their most important mission yet. So again, it is just something silly, but she absolutely loves this story or this series. So again, book 1 is Mission Moon. I should have put these in order. Book 2 is Race to Mars. Book 3 is Space Station Situation. Book 4 is Robot Rescue. Book 5 is Slapdash Science. And book 6 is Digital Disaster. Now, I do know I went on BookOutlet before and I found a couple of these there. So if you're looking for them even like at a discount, if you want to give them a try, I would look there before you pay like full price for them, if you get what I'm saying. I love BookOutlet because I could find some really inexpensive books, or a used bookstore. I found a couple at a used bookstore as well before. So the CatStronauts are something that she absolutely loves. So this next one is not going to be surprising. But there is another series that is kind of based off of the CatStronauts. I can't see that. Waffles and Pancake. She loves Waffles and Pancake. And again, these are characters from the CatStronauts books, but they ended up getting their own little series. So they currently have 3 books out for Waffles and Pancakes, but they are having another book being released really soon. I want to say December, but don't hold me to that. I just know that it's coming up. A 4th book is coming out. So the first book is Planetarium Yum. And in these, again, they're still that same like comic style books, and they're still silly. I would hear her sometimes just laughing randomly while she's reading these books, so I know she really enjoys them. The second book is called Waffles and Pancake Waffles and Pancake Flight or Fright. I couldn't say it. And the third book is Waffles and Pancake Failure to Launch. So again, these are just silly, a lot of fun, but she absolutely loves them. I've even found that my oldest daughter has read through these stories as well, and she finds them silly and fun too. But again, these ones are pretty thin, so my kids get through these really quickly, like one sitting, and they're done with this book. Okay. Now, the next series that my kids are enjoying, again, this is one for my youngest, is The Bad Guys. So, The Bad Guys is just another silly story. There is a movie about the bad guys as well that my daughter really enjoys. Now, with this one, we do not have all the books in the series. There are 18 books in this series currently. So, if you're looking for something to kind of really stick with for a while, this might be a good one, because there are 18 books in this series. We only have the first 6 right now, and my daughter is still kind of working her way through them, because again, they're only reading these when they're not in school. This is like what they choose to read on their own and independently, so not assigned readers. But the first one is The Bad Guys, and these on the inside, they are just black and white, but they do have some really silly pictures. And again, this is like another like comic style book. So The Bad Guys. And then there's The Bad Guys in Mission Unpluckable. That sounds funny too. The Bad Guys, The Furball Strikes Back. the bad guys in Attack of the Zitans. I don't know if I'm saying that right. The bad guys in Intergalactic Gas. Sure. The bad guys in Alien vs. Bad Guys. So again, there is a movie that your kids can watch with these as well. And again, these are just silly reads, but these are the types of books that my daughter really enjoys reading. And I love just seeing her happy when it comes to reading. So these are a lot of fun. Okay, so the next series that we are currently loving, or that my kids are currently loving, is actually one that my oldest daughter has already read through and is absolutely loved. And it's one that my youngest daughter is working on right now, and she's absolutely loving what she's read so far. And that is the Guardian series. Now, these books are based off of The Rise of the Guardians. I have mentioned these on my channel before. There is a movie that we absolutely love that these books are based off of. And there are, how many in the series? There are five books in this series. My youngest daughter is currently on book 4. I didn't get to read books 1 through 3. I actually picked it up on book 4 because my youngest daughter did read the first 3 on her own, but then she started to get a little overwhelmed, so now we're reading them together to finish them out. But the first book is book 1, Nicholas St. North and the Battle of the Nightmare King. So this series does kind of go a little bit into the background of the character, but then also it's kind of like a situation that they're all having to deal with too. So it's a good series. It is a good series from what I've read out of the 4th book, but the first one is about Nicholas St. North. The book 2 is about E. Aster Bunnyman and the warrior eggs at the Earth's core. So if you haven't kind of picked this up, if you've never heard about this, these are about like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. So, book 3, Teuthania, Queen of the Tooth Fairy Armies. Book 4, The Sandman and the War of Dreams. Again, this is the one we're currently reading, and we are both really enjoying it. And book 5 is Jack Frost, The End Becomes the Beginning. Again, my oldest daughter absolutely loved this series. My youngest daughter is absolutely loving this series, and I'm really looking forward to... I'm probably going to go back and reread the first 3 books just because I enjoy the series as well. And I'd like to hear the other stories that I've missed, basically. Okay, so the next book series isn't necessarily a series, but it is 3 books that basically follow the life of this girl named Raina. So this is Smile, Sisters, and Guts. Now, I wanted to add this one in because it is 3 books based off of one character, but not necessarily a series. My kids didn't, I don't even think my kids read these in any specific order. They just, you know, read them all and really enjoyed them. So I did want to include these in there because this is something that my youngest daughter just reread again for like the 5th time, and she just absolutely loved these stories. So with Smile, she read this one when she actually got her braces put on. So it was just like a fun little way to, you know, incorporate what was going on in her life with this story. But in Smile, it says, Raina just wants to be a normal 6th grader, but one night after Girl Scouts, she trips and falls, severely injuring her 2 front teeth. What follows is a long and frustrating journey with on-again, off-again braces, surgery, embarrassing headgear, and even a retainer with fake teeth attached. So it's kind of like this little girl's accident and struggles of having braces, and it was just something that my daughter could kind of relate to. Although she didn't have an accident, she did have to get braces, so it was just a fun story to incorporate at that time. And my oldest daughter did reread this story as well when she just recently got her braces on. So it was just a fun way to, you know, kind of mix it in. Now, following Raina again is Guts. And this one is about how Raina wakes up one night with a terrible upset stomach. Her mom has one too, so it's probably just a bug. Raina eventually returns to school where she's dealing with the usual highs and lows. Friends, not friends, and classmates who think the school year is just one long, gross out session. It soon becomes clear that Raina's tummy troubles isn't going away, and it coincides with her worries about food, school, and changing friendship. What's going on? Now, my kids absolutely love this one as well. Again, it's just another like comic style story. These are just kind of like a coming of age type of story, and it is based off of a true story. So my kids always kind of like that as well. And then the last one is Sisters. And this one is about how Raina can't wait to be a big sister, but once her sister is born, things aren't quite how she expected them to be. her sister is cute, but she's also cranky, grouchy, and mostly prefers to play by herself. Their relationship doesn't improve much over the years, but when a baby brother starts entering the picture, or when a baby brother enters the picture, and later when something doesn't seem right between their parents, they realize they must figure out how to get along. They are sisters after all. Again, another like coming of age story, and it just fits perfectly with the other two books. I do know that this author, I think, has another like 1 or 2 stories published that just follow different characters, but I wanted to include these 3 even though they're not series, because my kids do read through these all the time and absolutely love them. So the next book that book series I wanted to mention is actually one that my oldest daughter is currently reading. My youngest daughter has listened to the audiobooks, and I have read these books as well, and this is the Villain series by Serena Valentino. There are 10 books in this series. The 10th book was just recently released. That's why it's back kind of on our radar, and it's on this list of our current favorite book series. So the first book is Fairest of All, and this follows, what's her name? Snow White. Is it the Evil Queen? Yeah, the Evil Queen from Snow White. The second book is The Beast Within. And again, these are books that we've read over time. It's just back up on our radar because they've just released a 10th book. Poor Unfortunate Soul. Mistress of All Evil. Mother Knows Best. The Odd Sisters. Evil Thing. Cold Hearted. Never Never. And the newest one is Fire and Fate. Now, as you can see, these stories are kind of like the backstories to the villains, the Disney villains. Now, there is something I wanted to mention, though. You do want to read these in order. I know it can be a little bit confusing when you're looking at them, that it seems like you wouldn't have to because it's like the backstories of certain characters. But there are details and situations that are brought up throughout the other books that kind of grow off of each other. So you do want to read these books, this book series in order. Again, I've read them all except for the last 2. I'm still working on Captain Hook and Hades, but my youngest daughter has read them all. She absolutely loved them. My oldest daughter is currently working her way through Hades, and she really enjoyed this series. It just kind of gives you another look to the villains. And what I like about this series by Serena Valentino is that she's not necessarily justifying their actions as being villains, but she's pointing out situations that they've experienced that kind of twisted them in a way. So it's, again, it's not like justifying their actions. It's just kind of like some of the things that happen in their lives that kind of twisted their thoughts and things. But I do think that it is a really good series. There's not much in here, a little bit of fighting, a little bit of, you know, true love's kiss and stuff like that, but nothing like alarming. So these are pretty good. Now, the last book series I wanted to share with you is one that my oldest daughter is currently working her way through, and that is, again, I've mentioned these on my channel before, the School for Good and Evil series. Now, there are 6 books. I don't know why I'm putting it over here. There are 6 books in this series, and then I think there's 2 other additional books, like a prequel and, you know, another book. I don't know how they worked their way into the series, but there are 6 in the School for Good and Evil. The first one is the School for Good and Evil, and they do have a movie on Netflix. We haven't watched it, but yeah, there is a movie if you're interested. The second book is The School for Good and Evil, A World Without Princes. The third one is The School for I can't speak. The School for Good and Evil, The Last Ever After. The School for Good and Evil, Quest for Glory. The School for Good and Evil, A Crystal of Time. And The School for Good and Evil, One True King. Now, these books are thick books. They do take a while to get through. You can get them on Audible as well, if that makes it easier for your student, or, you know, if you want to read them or listen to them. But I do want to mention, this series is following, like, 2 best friends, Sophie and Agatha. and they get sent to the school for good and evil, and it's kind of following their experiences and whether or not, you know, who's going to be good, who's going to be the villain. And so there's a lot of like drama and stuff in here as well. But I do want to mention about this series, if you have younger kids, that there is some light romance involved, like kissing and things like that in this book, and there is some violence in these stories as well. Now, I just wanted to mention that in case that's something you wanted to stay away from. But my youngest daughter has not read the series yet. We were going to wait and allow her to read them later. But my oldest daughter, who's 14, Bella, she's working her way through this series, and she's absolutely loving these stories. And we haven't found anything inappropriate for Bella in these stories. So now, you're probably shocked because if you've been on my channel before, we are huge Harry Potter fans here, that I didn't mention Harry Potter. Now, the only reason why I didn't mention Harry Potter in this video is because we're not currently reading it. So although it's one of our favorite series, we're not currently reading it, so it can't be a current favorite, even though we always have love for it. But again, these are the book series that my kids are currently loving and enjoying, and these are not all of the book series that we have loved and enjoyed. These are just the ones that we are currently reading and loving right now. So let me know in the comment sections what you're enjoying reading, what your kids are enjoying reading, and thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. You have a great day. Bye.